Sometimes donors get upset. It's part of having a relationship. There are ups and there are downs. If a donor is really, really upset and threatening to pull their giving or something drastic like that, engage your manager straight away. It might take more than just you to smooth things over, and that's okay. Just remember, donors get upset because they care. If they didn't care so deeply about your organization, they really wouldn't get so upset. It's hard to remember that when you're being yelled at or lectured, but try to really center yourself in the comfort that they care. Throughout my career, I've had to deal with many upset donors, and you will too. Donors and prospects will oftentimes feel that organizational decisions or changes in direction are wrong, and they're not going to be shy about telling you. I was working for a hospital foundation that ended up merging into a larger Catholic healthcare system. When that merger happened, my hospital was no longer to offer all of the medical services that it once did, and this was really around women's health. Some donors were calling and saying, "I will never give to you again." Then we had other donors calling and saying, "This is the best thing that's ever happened and I'm going to double my gift." It was a really tough situation, but the anger did die down eventually. We lost a lot of donors and we gained a lot of donors. As a staff member, my role was to listen, let the donors know that they were heard, take their feedback to my supervisor, and work to keep the relationship intact if possible. With my portfolio, I think I lost between 8 and 10 really great prospects, but the organization was going down a path that was not going to be changed. When that occurs, you thank your prospects and donors, let them know that you're there if they want to talk again, and let them go. Sometimes you can't always turn things around. Here's another example, but a successful one. I had one job where I was raising money in 10 states. I traveled a lot, and before each trip, I would send handwritten notes to new prospects in the area saying that I was coming to town and I'd love to meet. Then a week before my trip, I would call everyone who had received a note and schedule a time to meet. It was actually a really great strategy and landed me a ton of awesome meetings. I'll never forget it. I was headed to Boise, Idaho, and when I called one woman, she was super eager to meet, which was great. So I flew into Boise, and when I get to her house, I see that she has laid out on her kitchen table all of the organizational communications that she'd received in the past year or so, including the note that I had just sent, a couple weeks before. She was very upset that the organization had wasted so much paper and so much postage, and it was a lot of mail. Apparently, she had called headquarters and told them to deduce her mailings, but nothing ever happened. She just kept getting mail. And I had walked into her house super excited to meet a new prospect and gauge her interest, but it was quickly clear that I was there to be read the riot act. I listened to everything she said very gracefully. We talked about how she wanted to receive information, and I assured her that the change would be made. I asked her a few questions about how she came to know the organization and what inspired her to keep giving. She actually calmed down, and once she began speaking about her love of the organization, everything changed. I realized that she was so upset because she cared so deeply. After she served me tea and we chatted for an hour or so, I left her home, but before I did, I assured her that I would take care of her request. Of course, I got back to my hotel room, I made the change immediately in the database. When I got back to Seattle and checked the mail, she had sent a check for $5,000, which was her largest gift to date. Over the next year, I stayed in touch via phone. I was definitely not going to send her a note. I called her once or twice a month, and right before the end of the fiscal year, she made a $50,000 gift. Sometimes people just need to be heard and feel like they were heard and acknowledged. By listening, reassuring her that I'd fix the excess mail issue and then actually fix it, the situation was completely turned around. When donors or prospects have strong feelings, listen and try not to get defensive. Work toward a solution and try to salvage the relationship if you can. If you can't salvage it, it's time to let the prospect go. There will always be somebody who is upset by decisions that are made for the organization or on behalf of the organization. And as the organization's representative, you're going to hear about it. So be as graceful as possible and address the concerns as they arise.